we have our speakers here today. So I'm quite thrilled to have these two speak for us. They've been coming to our meetup for a year and a half or so. So they've been quite regulars at coming. This is Aaron and Brianna Shade, and they're preparing to embark on a year-long journey around the world. In fact, they both have given notice at work now, so it's no longer a secret. It's happening. Yeah. Tickets are bought, they are going. So when days do you leave?
Like mid to late June. We haven't quite booked our first flight, but
it's
it's like
this close to
it's happening like tomorrow.
Okay. Well, what they plan to do is, when their travel, is they plan to prove that this big world is smaller than you think. And so you can follow their trip at Big Tiny World Travel. And
they have business cards.
They have business cards and a list, and we'll mention more at the end. And so you can also read their blogs. They're already blogging about their prep that they're doing, and they just recently had one about the fear and getting through the fear. So they have some good blogs coming up that you can go out and read as well, and that's at that website. And they've also done a blog from when they did go over to Norway, and they went camping around there. So there's information out there on that too. Plus, you can check out Brianna's travel photos, which when you watch this slideshow, there's going to be a lot of her works out there, because Brianna's a photographer, and her photo website is Lots of Smiles Photography. So again, I'm thrilled to have both of these. Okay, let's get these last couple drinks served. Sorry. And then they'll start. So just wait a second for the drinks to come out. And so anybody have a question for them before they talk about Norway, about traveling around the world? Like where they're going to first? That's a good question. Where are you going to first?
South Africa.
And Namibia.
Namibia.
Ah, fantastic. Great start.
How many places do you have to take your visa?
How many what?
Countries you have to take your visa.
Oh, how many countries need a visa? It really depends. I know when my husband and I traveled around the world.
Most American US passport doesn't need a state.
Yeah, you don't always need one, but there some.
I believe there are 176 countries a U.S. passport you don't need to have a visa for that many countries, and then there are several that we do. We aren't planning on going to too many of those, but when we do, we'll just plan ahead and make sure we get that in time.
And you're able to get visas as you travel. We got a lot of them in the countries as we went. So like we got our Chinese visa when we were in Greece, and our Indian visa when we were in Kenya. So you can get those. There are a couple that were hard to get. We weren't able to get into either Brazil or into Russia while we were traveling, because both of their visa rules would not let us get visas while we were already on a trip. So
I do believe Brazil has changed, and they have an online visa now.
I do
for
believe that has
$40,
changed.
and you may be able to get it while you're abroad.
I believe China needs a visa as well.
they do, yeah. Although it was easy to get, I mean, it was just formality, having to go to a consulate instead of just sending it off. So. Okay, and so tonight we're going to be focusing on Norway, and we're just about there. So Karen's doing a great job, so we're a big group to come on, so yeah, let's
This was for you, right? The nitro?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're a big group when we hit, so everyone remember to do your
You ordered
application.
from me over there and I just forgot.
It's coming. She's in the room. Yep.
How long have you been here? About 2 years. Although, contrary to what you may think, we do not have the entire year trip planned. We have kind of a rough outline of where we're going. We have the Africa part pretty well planned, and then we'll plan the next leg of our trip from there.
And over the next few months as well.
Yeah.
Once the jobs are gone, it'll be a lot easier to which is soon. I got like 14 days left, I think.
So how much money are you budgeting for this
Okay, well,
year?
we'll save the rest of the questions for wherever we're
Come on, Sean.
Because we're gonna do Norway, but that can happen in the later questions, so on to Norway.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So we went to Norway back in late May and early June of last year. So it was unseasonably warm there. So we were expecting to be cold, and we brought all these warm clothes with us, and it was hot in Oslo when we first got there. So we got a lot of things we're going to cover here, like our route and break down costs and share some photos. So we'll just get straight into everything. This is our route. We started here in, let me see if I have a laser pointer. Yeah, Oslo, and we drove this way and all the way around. And what we did to save money and do this trip was we car camped. So all these spots here you see are different camping areas that we stopped at. That was kind of how I was able to build the map quickly, is through just labeling out all of the camp spots that were there. This whole trip was about 2,000 kilometers or 1,248 miles. Go ahead, Brianna.
All right.
Those disappeared.
I got it. So we actually ended up flying out a day earlier than our friends. So we were doing this trip with a few of our friends, and the flights were actually cheaper to go a day earlier. And we thought, hey, why not? We'll check out Oslo. It was a good opportunity to do that. And we ended up actually couch surfing with a local couple, which is a great way to experience a new city because they're locals and they can kind of give you a rundown of good places to go check out and whatever else. And we got to spend the night with this adorable cat. This cat's name is Sputnik. I nicknamed her Spuds. She is absolutely the sweetest cat. And we got to have breakfast on this patio, which was just spectacular. I absolutely loved it. Let me use her. There we go. Okay, and so they actually invited us to a graduation party that night, which after 24 hours of travel, we were exhausted. But somehow we found some kind of second wind and we were able to chat with them, and they were super friendly, and most of them spoke better English than a lot of Americans we knew. So they're just amazing people, and they have just these fascinating stories, and a lot of them were curious as to why did you pick Norway as your first European country to visit? That's so strange. But at any rate, we were still pretty tired, so all of the people all in one room kind of was wearing on us a bit. So we escaped to this park that they recommended, our hosts recommended. This is Vigeland Park, which is a remarkable park. It's full of like over 200 statues, all done by the same artist. It's actually the largest statue park in the world, done by a single artist. And it was just fascinating wandering through this park and seeing everybody. It was a Friday night, and all of these kids were out there picnicking and barbecuing, whatever else, at 10 o'clock at night. This is 10 p.m. This does not look like 10 p.m., but May in Norway, this is what 10 p.m. looks like. It was just absolutely beautiful wandering this park. And then the next day, we got to wander the city itself, and we walked throughout the entire thing. So Oslo actually is a very car-unfriendly city. Deliberately, they do that for environmental reasons. And so walking is kind of the preferred mode of transport in Oslo proper. So we went to the Royal Palace, which was kind of cool to wander around. We wandered down to the marina. This is the Opera House, which is famous for this amazing ramp. This is the roof of the Opera House, and you can actually walk from the marina up this ramp and onto the top of the Opera House, which was so cool, and it was a great way to actually view all of the city below. And then we also wandered inside, which was just amazing architecture. I loved the Norwegian architecture. And then further down the waterfront, we got down into, this basically reminded us of the South Waterfront area. This very posh neighborhood, lots of cute little shops and whatever else, and because it was so bloody hot, people were actually out swimming in the water. There was a cute little swimming beach down here that we were able to kind of see the locals in action, so to speak. All right, so I will hand it off to you to talk about what we actually saw once we departed Oslo.
So this is a viewpoint. It's they say that it's a wooden waterfall.
There you go.
And at the end of this thing, it kind of ramps down just like a waterfall would, and then there's just this one piece of glass between you and sudden death if you fell at the end of this thing. And a beautiful view of the fjord down below. here. And that is, down below is Arlands Fjord. And then this is another viewpoint. And there's a nice, cool little windy road down there that I'm pretty sure we went to after we were done here. That's actually me up there with my hands up in the air. So Brianna was able to take the picture down below. And up there was all this neat kind of like artistic triangular staircases and stuff. And even the shape of the ramp that's up there was more of a triangle. But the view is just incredible. And it's just like, wow, I'm really here. You know, this is nice. This here is a very famous viewpoint. And
This is Trollst again.
yes, and there are 11 hairpin turns on your way down this thing.
Hope you don't get those.
So you're not driving fast down this. It's a nice slow drive, and you pass this waterfall like a whole bunch of different times, which is also really cool. And the other thing is like Norway has like waterfalls everywhere. They're streaming down both sides here and going down the middle of this valley here. It's really incredible.
This is like the famous windy road when you look at Norway pictures, and people will do the long exposures with the tail lights zigzagging all the way up. This is that road. Aaron, have you rented a car?
Yes. So we rented a car. We actually had 2 cars with us because our friends, there were 3 of them and 2 of us. So we just kind of split between the 2 cars. And so we'll cover a little bit more of that later. So in the theme of viewpoints, during our 2,000 kilometer drive, we were just seeing stuff like this just right off the road. I mean, it just seemed like we'd go around another corner or something and something more beautiful would just wow us. And it just kept getting better and better and better as we were going through the entire trip.
It was hard to not stop every 100 yards or so.
And then this is at a waterfall called Breakfossen. And down there's a fjord, you can see a little cruise ship and stuff. This view is incredible. I mean, the waterfall's back over here, but just looking back and seeing this view after doing the hike up, that is just, wow. And I actually hiked all the way up to the top of the waterfall first and then came back down to this viewpoint, not knowing it was even here because I just kept staying on the trail. And so this was like one of the last spots I went to, and it was definitely worth it. Probably handle it. This is, so at the start of our drive, this is like the first main waterfall that we saw on the second day. Langfossen. And it's
We're
right
just
up, again,
driving
right off
along
the
and
road.
we just see this thing.
We planned to stop here. There was actually a little spot where you can pull off, park your car, and there was a little visitor center kind of kiosk thing there. And then there was the falls, and then you can also look down here where they empty out into the fjord below. This is Vindelfossen, and this waterfall is right at it. There's actually a campsite here, so people can camp right next to this waterfall and just like wake up to this in the morning. I mean, we did not camp here, but we did stop by and check it out. It was beautiful. This is part of that same, so that windy road that you saw earlier, this is a stop on that windy road. And this is our friend just totally getting soaked probably. Actually, he did get pretty wet right there. But it was just like, this waterfall is just insane coming down the side of the mountain there. And now we get to fjords. Norway is famous for its fjords. Most of them are on the west side of Norway. And this is one of the more famous ones, and as you can see, there's more waterfalls coming down. But the watercolor, I mean, this screen doesn't do it justice, but it was just like this deep, deep blue. It was just beautiful.
So
And there you can actually get the blue a little bit better with this photo. And then she just happened to get a boat in it, which is awesome. And then you can see, I don't know,
another windy
people
road.
must like live down here. They gotta go down this zigzaggy road all the way down to the water there. Which is crazy. This hike, you actually hike through private property to get to this viewpoint. And it was just really cool, and there were like goats along the way, and it was
So what's very interesting about Norway is they actually have what's called the right to roam laws, which basically says you're allowed to hike and camp anywhere in Norway, even private property. So this hike here went through some guy's private land, but because of the right to roam, we're perfectly able to go and do that. But that comes with a great sense of respect. There's just a culture of you respect the land, you respect the place where you're at. You don't leave a bunch of garbage. You're not pooping where you're not supposed to. You know, whatever else. And it's a courtesy thing that you let the owner of the land know that you're going to be camping on their land, especially if it's more than one night. But it was so amazing that it just opens the entire country up to people being able to enjoy this beauty, and because everybody respects it, so they're able to allow for that, which I think is really remarkable.
And because there are so many fjords, we had to definitely do some water crossings. And as you can see there, I mean, there are even buses on there, you know, and
So many
cars.
ferries.
But we at least took, I don't know, like 5-7 ferry rides or something
Something like that. So many ferries.
So that
And they're
also,
super efficient.
So you don't have to do like the boat cruise through. You can just take ferry rides and save a lot of money. The tunnels in Norway are an incredible thing. We went through so many tunnels. The longest one was, what, 24 kilometers?
Whoa.
And you're just in there forever. And I also call these things a view stealer, because there's so much beauty out there, and I'm stuck in this tunnel for another 10 more kilometers.
It's ridiculous.
But yeah, there were just so many. And then like you get out of the tunnel, and then you're like, yay, I'm out of the tunnel. I'm like, oh no, there's a tunnel right there. There's another one. Oh great.
This one actually had daylight. Most of them did not.
Most of them did not. It was just dark. This one is the only lit up one, which is why we have a photo of it. They do have lights inside of them, and there are little emergency places. In case you get stuck in there, you can probably call somebody if needed.
But you get to the other side, and your eyes have long since adjusted to
I
the
noticed
darkness.
it.
It's
Right.
like, ah!
Oh, no. All right, Brianna, too.
All right. Now, I did also want to mention a fun fact about the Norway fjords. If you're trying to calculate the coastline, the distance coastline for Norway, if you do not include the fjords, it's about 2650 kilometers. If you do include the fjords, it's over 25,000 kilometers. Fun fact. All right, and so then, of course, all of these fjords are formed by glaciers. Now, we didn't see a whole lot of glaciers, but we made a point to get out to some of these. This first one, which is Kendalen Glacier, there was this fun little hike that you could do to get out to a viewpoint, and anyone could do this simple little hike. And it was beautiful. It's like, wow, that's so awesome. And then we saw, hey, you know what? That trail keeps going. I want to see where this goes. And so we ended up getting really close to this. And now this is a bit misleading because I'm zoomed in with my camera. We weren't actually on the ice. And in fact, while you're out there, you can see holes in the ice, and you can see the ice water rushing underneath. This isn't something you want to be going and walking across. It can be quite dangerous, actually. So we were actually up on the rock of this thing. It was windy and cold and just remarkable getting so close to something so massive. It was amazing. And we thought absolutely nothing could possibly top this, because this is just wow. Until we came to this one. This was literally our last night, and we were hiking and hiking and hiking all across. You went up and down these these wooden stairs, up and down these smooth rocks here. And you see this little blue blob off in the distance. It's like, oh, there's a glacier way down there. Let's go check it out. And you're walking and walking and walking. And it doesn't seem like you're getting any closer to this thing. It's because it's so huge. And by the time you round that final bend and you see this thing, it's just like, wow. And it's so blue, and it's so beautiful. And the energy that's there, we were speechless.
It emotionally moved me.
It was the
just
weirdest
like,
thing.
I couldn't believe it. Kind of, nothing had ever made me feel like that before. when I
Just
saw
the
this thing.
sheer enormity of nature, and knowing that this is, it's incredibly humbling
Yes.
just to be anywhere near this. And we were just, it hit all of us. And it was the coolest and weirdest thing, but definitely the highlight of our trip.
We were like high on life at that point.
It was absolutely incredible. And then, of course, we learned after the fact that they actually do glacier tours, where you can walk out onto these glaciers and you can go into ice tunnels, and that is on the bucket list for next time. For sure. All right.
Are those just day tours or are those multiple days?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if they had both. The ones that we found afterwards were just day tours, but I would not be surprised if they had both. But definitely, you don't want to be walking on these things because you see footage of these. What is it called? Cleaving or what? Calving. Thank you, calving. That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Calving is the word I was looking for, where you see this massive chunk of ice just come cascading down, and you don't want to be under that. People have actually died from that, and you want to be very careful. So, of course, we were able to experience all of these wonders of Norway through camping. Yay! So, Norway, of course, is known as being one of the most expensive countries in the world to visit. And we curbed a lot of that cost by camping. We brought all of our gear with us, and we just had some lightweight backpacking gear, but really we were car camping, so as long as you can fit it in a suitcase, you can bring it with you, and you can, like I said before, camp anywhere. You can wild camp as long as there's a spot there and it doesn't say it's under active construction or anything like that. You're free to camp. And so we would have views like this, and why not? Most of the time, however, we stayed at designated campgrounds, which are everywhere. And now these campgrounds cost about $20 per car per night, which is really reasonable. You get this nice little square lawn where you can pitch your tent, and man, these campgrounds are posh. If you don't have camping gear, you can rent a cabin at most of these, which is great. Almost all of these come with full bathrooms with actual plumbing. They come with these nice little seating areas where you can have your lunch and your meals and kind of sit with your friends and whatever else inside and warm up if it's cold, but of course it was really warm where we were. And full kitchens, like microwaves and stoves and dishwashers and kitchens, like, oh my God. It was so, we were blown away. This is not the camping that I'm used to doing. But the one thing that surprised me most about most of these campgrounds, Wi-Fi. Every single one of them had Wi-Fi. It was crazy. I'm not used to campgrounds having Wi-Fi available. In fact, general cell coverage throughout the entire country was better than oftentimes right here in the city. We were telling people at home, look, okay, we're going to be in the city the first day, and then we're probably going to be off the map for about a week because we're going to be out in the backwoods of Norway. Nope. We had cell coverage everywhere. It was awesome. We could camp in front of waterfalls like these, which was just beautiful, and some of them had goats on the property, and one of them had a trampoline on the property, which was great. They had decks and these beautiful views of waterfalls and fjords and all this other stuff. It's like, how can you go wrong? But our favorite one was this one. This is actually called backwards. There you go, sir. Make sure people can see. This is Dirtlegard. And it's this teeny tiny little campground. It sat maybe 4 or 5 tents total. They had showers here, which is great. Most of the campgrounds had showers as well, although they were paid showers. You had to put tokens in. It was about $2 for 2 minutes of hot water. But when you're stinky after a couple of days, it's worth it. They were free here. We took advantage of them. And then, of course, we got to wake up to that. This is why it was our favorite place. This is just beautiful. This is like, you open it up and like, this is just absolutely wonderful.
We were eating dinner at midnight before this too. It's still light out.
Yes. So
After
it's
a long
just
day of fun.
absolutely amazing and a wonderful, wonderful way to experience Norway. Send on to you to go over costs.
Okay, so costs for us. So our
Now, this
airfare.
is total.
This is combined. This is for 2 people. So the airfare, that was probably the most, it was the most expensive thing. We flew in Norwegian Airlines. We were able to get tickets at a reasonable price. I know Icelandair also gets you to Norway for about around the same amount. Norway is considered a budget airline. Food, we brought a lot with us. We had freeze-dried meals. We ate out once, so that actually inflated that bill by $50.
It is expensive to eat out in Norway. Really
Shared fish and
expensive.
chips with 2 glasses of wine, $50.
Lunch.
Lunch, yes. Lodging, that's 100% campgrounds, because we had the free stay with couch surfing. And then transportation was our 2nd largest cost.
And that's gonna be the rental car and the gas.
And I broke down the transportation into buckets. So the rental car was about $400 for the whole time. It really wasn't too bad. Gas was $1.95. That was actually pretty expensive. Metro Rail, we just took it from the airport in town the one day and then back to the airport to pick up the car. So that was just round trip for both of us. And then all the ferry trips were $135.
And you said this is for a month, correct?
Oh, we were there for about
10 days.
About 10 days.
About 10 days.
Yeah. So this is the total cost, about $3,000 for 2 people, which in
was,
Norway is really reasonable.
We spent $5 grand in Costa Rica for about the same time, but we did live it up a lot more there. Okay, cost-saving tips, don't eat out, yes. Putting your own meals, you can go to convenience stores, you can get food there. There are other ways to get food that's cheap.
How was it taking the food into Norway?
Wasn't
I
a
didn't have any
problem.
problem.
No issues?
They were all freeze-dried bags, they didn't really care.
Were they
And
your
we-
own personal freeze-dried things, or did you buy commercial?
We bought them, you know, the standard backpacking kind of freeze-dried meals. And then we did some local shopping as well in the grocery stores, and it was pretty inexpensive to do it that way. It's really the most expensive to go out to any restaurants there because that's a real, they view that as an experience that's not as casual as it is here. That's something you do on a very rare occasion, and basically every restaurant there is a very nice restaurant, so you're going to be paying for it.
Don't expect Norway to be a place where you can just run down the street and go get restaurants like you can here. They're just not there, it's not part of their culture as much.
Did you visit grocery stores and buy food there?
Yes,
Yes.
we did.
What's that like?
It was fine. I mean, most of the people speak English, so it wasn't a problem communicating with anyone there. Everything was labeled fine. I mean, you just had to do a little internal conversion for the money there. They have Krone, and it's completely like credit card based society. This is fun. Another fun fact. The only time we ever touched any physical currency from Norway were these 2 coins, and it's only because our friends had dropped them in the back seat of their rental car. That's the only time we ever touched any of their money.
How does the grocery expense compare to here? If you were able to figure that out.
I would think it's probably similar to San Francisco pricing. Okay, so another tip is to, if you want alcohol, buy it in the duty-free store at the airport before you get into it, because they tax the hell out of liquor when you're in the city.
That was a tip from our couch surfer hosts.
Yes, they let us know that before we got there. Wonderful people, they were great. Go with more friends. So we had 2 cars. If we had just 2 more people, we could have spread costs over 2 more people. And then even that helps with the camping too, because they don't, well.
It's per car.
It's per
It's
car.
basically per camp spot.
So if it's per car and per camp spot, then you're saving money if you have more people. Obviously, wild camps, if you want to skip the campgrounds, you can. We liked them, and they didn't really cost that much when you had enough people to do it. So I think it was worth it to go the way we did. Then, as I mentioned before, you can, well, no, actually, I didn't mention this. If you take Icelandair and you want to spend a little time in Iceland before you go to Norway, you can do a long layover with Icelandair and check out Iceland before
It's a
you
way
go.
to get a 2 for 1.
Okay, thanks for next time. We have Glacier Tour, we already mentioned. Venture farther north. We want to go all the way to the Arctic Circle.
We were there in May. It never got dark, so no, we didn't see any northern lights.
Bergen is a town that's on the west coast, and it's actually a better hub for starting out because everything beautiful is pretty much along the western part of Norway and then through all the way to the north. Trondheim's just a city that's along the way going north. Pulpit Rock is a viewpoint that's over a fjord that we didn't get to see last time. Kurag is a place where there's a giant boulder wedged between a couple different, it's like kind of mountainous. A lot of people just get up on this, it's like a circular-ish kind of boulder in between that got wedged in there. And there are a lot of pictures.
Basically over nothing.
Over nothing, yeah. You look down, there's no way in hell I'll get on it. But I'll take a picture of it.
I'll get on it, he'll be taking a
And
picture of me on it.
Trolltunga is a place where it's a really long, hard, difficult hike, and we didn't have time for it. But up there is something that's Trolltunga means troll's tongue, and it's like this natural one of those ramps that goes out and looks over a fjord.
If you have ever Google image searched Norway, I guarantee you Trolltunga is going to be within the top 5 hits. It is the most famous lookout
And
point.
it's on their tourist site.
Yeah, it is.
It's what sells Norway.
Yes.
And then now we're just into just some photos that we have, if you want to go through.
Yeah. So I wanted to share some extra photos here with you. First of all, these are a few from Oslo. I wanted to share this first one just because it's the weirdest thing. This was,
We laughed at that one.
it was just so funny. Like all of these sculptures throughout this again was in Vigeland Park. And this particular one is called Man Chasing 4 Geniuses. It's like, okay, I don't understand how that, okay. And then in the South Waterfront area, we actually went up this is a glass elevator. It goes up 54 meters and lets you see kind of all across the city, which is amazing. It was a lot of fun. And then, of course, we had to take pictures of the trolls because trolls are they're everywhere in Norway.
So talking about Oslo, so was it free to go up that elevator?
No.
And then how about like
It
the
was $5.
Yeah.
opera house that you showed at the start and then you went into it, was that free to walk around and?
The Opera House, yes. The Opera House was. In fact, it had like a coffee shop inside that you could go in and observe all of the whatever. I mean, most of the stuff that we did was just walking tours and free things. But we thought the elevator looked kind of cool,
Yeah.
so we were willing to pay a few bucks
But
for
it
that.
wasn't crazy expensive either.
No.
Not
No.
cheaper than a glass of wine.
Yes. For sure. I love this picture. This is like Aaron's favorite picture as well. So we were driving to Durdlegard, that campsite that we love so much. And I saw this little herd of goats off to the side. And I'm like, ooh, Aaron, stop the car, I gotta take a picture. And these goats saw me get out with my big old honking lens. And they're like, ooh, what's that? What are you doing? Who? And they all just came up. Oh no, that's another goat. And they were so curious of me and my big lens. They were just all staring at me like, thanks for posing, guys. It was awesome. I love these goats. This is another little guy. He was off of the Losta Trail, and this was on our way up to see that viewpoint that we showed earlier of the Geringer Fjord. And then more of the architecture. This was the Lomstave Church. And they had churches like this all throughout Norway. And this one dates back to the 12th century, which is just phenomenal. Of course, it's been remodeled and I think rebuilt at one point, in fact, but it's just the history is just incredible. Another church, this one's kind of cool. This is the St. Olaf Church, and that might sound familiar to you because it was used as the inspiration for one of the churches in the movie Frozen.
Yep.
So this is a side-by-side kind of comparison. This is what the clip from the movie itself, and this was actually my photo from the inside of that church. So that was just so cute. I love going inside of that little church. And then just beautiful views. This was right off the side of the road. I mean, how do you not stop? Another one. Waterfalls everywhere. We were just blown away by all the waterfalls. We expected the fjords. We did not expect all the waterfalls. Nobody talks about how there are just waterfalls springing out like it's nobody's business. Right off the side of the road.
It was fun when we got up to the snowy areas.
Oh, it was just so beautiful.
Nothing on the road, just on the.
And the reflections, just the water is absolutely still. again, just right off the side of the road.
So in taking your camping gear over, how much stuff, like, did you still just travel with 2 bags or one
Yeah.
bag each?
One bag each.
One backpack that we checked, and then we had another bag with all our camera gear that we kept on the plane with us.
Yeah, our
So
personal
you
item.
took tents, sleeping bags, but no, did you have to take pots and pans or you knew you'd have those over there?
So we had, we went with a jet boil, basically. For those who don't know what a jet boil is, it's basically a compact little stove that does nothing but boil water. But it does it extremely efficiently. You just have a little propane tank, which we bought there, and you plug it in, and it just boils water, which then you reconstitute your freeze-dried meals. And that's all we needed for all of the meals that we did.
Would you, now knowing that they have kitchens over there, would you still take one of those or would you just use their kitchens?
That's debatable. I mean, our friends actually brought like a full kitchen, and they were doing full-on meals.
We did use them plenty still, even though.
We borrowed their stuff for a couple of things.
Because not every campground we went to had this.
That's true. That's true. And especially if you're wild camping at all, then it's really great
We didn't
having
know what
jet
we were getting
boils.
into. But if we plan and know which campsites we're gonna go to, then we can avoid that part, yes.
Mhm. Did you have a question?
Did you know ahead of time that you'd have to allocate extra time to stop every 5 minutes? I'm so impressed with you, Aaron, to keep you on track.
We went deliberately knowing it's like, okay, we are going to spend this entire day just driving. Knowing that we're going to go to all of these different places. We didn't have we must be by here by a certain time. It's like, we're going to drive as far as we get,
you left
and then
some
we'll
time.
find
Okay.
wherever we
Plus,
can.
all the extra daylight helped.
Exactly.
It didn't help how much we slept though, because the sun came back up at 3:30 in the morning, whether we liked it or not.
And we're driving and driving, like, yeah, we're kind of tired. What time is it? Midnight. Oh, wow, we should probably stop.
I'm curious about the Wi-Fi everywhere. I see all of these mountains.
Uh-huh.
I don't see cell towers. Any idea how they make that happen?
I don't know. I guess they had cell towers.
Oh.
They did this keep
The trolls. I don't know.
They had troll towers.
But I mean, service was remarkable there. I was just blown away that we had coverage just everywhere.
I was told cell towers is the outdated way that we do things here. But
Oh, really?
around the world and even in Brazil, like they just don't do cell towers.
Do you know what they do instead?
No.
Satellites? Really?
Yes.
Okay,
See that?
uh,
as a
I
question.
was just questioning, about the drive, knowing how windy the gorge is here.
Mhm.
Did you encounter that? Also, I wanna know is this looks like there's no snow in the winter. I hope this is different.
Yes.
Or is
Well,
this
first
one-
of all, this was May, and it was unseasonably hot. It was like 80 degrees, which was ridiculous for May.
Until we got high up in
But
altitude.
in the winter.
I mean,
it-
In the winter, yeah.
This one, there was plenty of snow.
I looked at some pictures today of some of the places that we went to during the winter, and there was like 8 feet of snow on each side of the road, and then it was just a road. So walls of snow, like going up certain parts of Mount Hood, it's the same kind of thing.
It was basically summer when we were there.
So this is after a very warm year for them.
Unusually warm.
What's that?
It was unusually warm.
Yes.
Very unusual.
The locals, when we were in Oslo, were saying that they hadn't seen it like that hot in a long time that time of year.
What were the high lows of the temperature over there?
I
It was
mean,
like 80 degrees
and
was
it
the
cooled down
high.
into the 60s. It was almost like Portland.
Yeah, it was
Portland was
really
actually
warm.
colder than Oslo when we went.
The bad thing is I brought like one wool short sleeve shirt and like 3 long sleeve warmer shirts. I was wearing that one every single day because I brought all this warm clothing expecting it to be cold and it just wasn't. So.
How was the overall driving?
How was what?
Overall driving, traffic and everything.
Oh, how was the drive?
The traffic?
There was no traffic. We had the roads to ourselves most of the time. The only traffic we saw was in Oslo. Once we got out into the countryside, we'd see an occasional car pass us, but we could go 30 minutes to an hour sometimes, not even see another car drive by.
What's the speed limit?
Around 60 kilometers to 80 kilometers per hour, depending on where you were.
Although there were were speed cameras all over the place, which was very interesting. So they had signs warning you that there were speed cameras, but we had to be very cognizant of that.
We didn't see any police officers except in Oslo.
So we're gonna open it to some other travelers too, and some general questions in just a second. But let's thank these two for this presentation. And again, they have their Big Tiny World blog. They do have a sign-up sheet here if you'd like to be added to their mailing list. Brianna also did bring a few prints of her pictures. I think she has
From
about
Norway.
5 different Norway pictures over here. If anyone would like to buy a souvenir of it. So let's talk to you. So who else has been to Norway already?
Got one over
A
there.
few of us have been to Norway, not too many. Okay, wow, I expected a few more hands up.
Wow.
Who has Norway on their bucket list, especially now after this presentation? Okay, there's a lot more hands going up, so that's great. So let's also open up, so we also said we were gonna talk about general Scandinavia, so we wanna talk about Denmark and Scotland, and Sweden as well. So who here has been to Sweden? Again, only a few of us, okay, but a few. And then who's been to Denmark? Okay, a couple of us as well. So I gotta say, so with all of these three countries, they are known for being very expensive to travel in. And definitely one of the big price things is the food, like Brianna and Aaron were saying. Food and alcohol. If you want a glass of wine, I know when I was in Sweden, I had a glass of wine and it was more expensive than my hotel that night. Although I was staying in a hostel, but it was still more expensive than that. It's like, wow. So again, you really need to budget that if you're going there. Does anyone have Sweden and Denmark on their bucket list? I asked about Norway, but who wants to go to Sweden and Denmark? So we definitely have a few, okay, we have a few on those as well. So what questions do people have about any of the 3 destinations? Because we definitely have some of us in the room who've been to the other countries as well. So those of you thinking of going, what's your questions about on any of the destinations?
Well, I just have a comment to make. If anybody's interested in Denmark, I would think it would be fun to read a book called Living Danishly.
Living Danishly is a book
It's all about the culture.
of living in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Anybody else have a question or comment about these 3 countries?
If you were going to go to see the Northern Lights, which of the Scandinavian countries is the optimum?
That's a great question. So I don't know if I have a definitive answer on that. I know a lot of people go to Sweden for that, and then Iceland has been huge recently for that as well. But you can also hit it in Alaska. You can also, I saw them in Scotland. In other places it's more hit and miss. You want to do some timing issues. They recently, the last few years have supposedly been really good, so you want to kind of check, I don't know why they're good right now or have been, but.
The sun has an 11-year cycle.
Yeah.
Thank you, an 11-year cycle, and so we're at a good.
Yeah, we're actually at the low.
Coming back out, yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of people went
That's
like
what I've heard anyway.
about 2 years ago, people were like racing over, a lot of people I knew to see them, but yeah.
So a lot of books say Tromsø, Norway is the #1 spot for Northern Lights.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Marianne, yeah.
I've been to Tromsø, that's a very nice place. It's about 400 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. So that's a nice place to go. Yeah, I went in August, the sun didn't go down until 11:30.
Yeah.
Was there enough to do there though?
What?
How many days were you in Tromsø?
4 days.
And you had lots to do? I worry about
I
that.
have a close friend who lives there.
Yeah.
Stay with her.
So Tim, you just need to make some friends,
So I talk about the groceries, they're really expensive because everything was imported.
Yeah.
It was too cold to.
So she's saying the groceries are really expensive there because everything's imported up there, especially up that north.
And they
yeah.
also eat whales.
They eat whales, yeah.
Yeah.
I know in Sweden they, I had a reindeer burger or steak, I don't even know what it was anymore, but yeah, I ate reindeer.
I did
or
see
something.
reindeers.
Yeah. Okay, what other questions do people have about these countries?
How did
Okay.
you find the couch surfing?
Couch surfing questions, so yeah.
How did we initially
What
find
did
it
you,
or
no,
how?
what did you think of it? What did you think of the couch
How
surfing
did you
experience?
find it?
How do you find it?
In addition, how did you
Oh,
find it?
so couchsurfing is a website. It's couchsurfing.com.
Yes.
Well, yeah, And you go out to couch surfing, it's huge, million kind of things on it. Anyone can list if they have a spare sofa, air mattress, sometimes it's a bed, sometimes it's a room.
We've actually been hosting for a while now, which is part of, we wanted to build kind of our reputation with the system so that when we went abroad, we already had ratings from other people who have stayed with us, and so we're more trustworthy going and staying with other people as well.
And it's free. So it's free to sign up, and anyone can sign up as both a traveler and a host. So they now do a thing called verified as well, which I believe verified costs.
It does unless you host.
Okay.
So we've been hosting to offset that cost.
Because you do want, I would say you should stay with verified people. There are some issues, couch surfing itself will admit there's some bogus listings and things like that. So you do need to do due diligence. The vast majority are okay, and the vast majority of people have had great experiences. But you do want to read all the reviews and check, and definitely look for that little added thing of verified by and make sure people are happy with it. But it's a huge website right now. So why don't you tell us about your experience with the couch surfers, and then we'll take a question from Dana.
So absolutely loved these couch surfers. There was a couple who were lived in Oslo, and interestingly enough, the gentleman of the couple is Japanese, but he grew up in New Zealand and then moved to Norway and was with the gal who is native Norwegian. And so you kind of have this really interesting mix of cultures going on there, but they're super friendly. They had a room, a private room that we were able to use. It was an office, so it was kind of cramped, but we didn't care. We were exhausted. We were just there to crash for the night. So
and Brianna, let me verify. You can read all that. You can find out if it's going to be on their living room sofa or what.
They usually will tell you kind of what the home is like, what your space is like, if it's nothing but a couch, if it's an air mattress or whatever else. But yeah, they offered us a shower. They were really nice and actually let us, we asked them, what is quintessential Norwegian food that you can recommend for us to try here? And they said, okay, you gotta try brown cheese.
There you go.
It is a brown goat cheese, and they had some, and they have it for breakfast, basically. You slice some of the cheese and you put it on crackers, and you have that as part of your morning meal. And so they actually gave some of that on that beautiful porch. We had some of that brown cheese. It's a goat cheese. It's basically a goat cheese, which is obviously very popular with so many goats. So it was delicious.
And Brianna and Aaron experienced, as they said, quite hot temperatures for the area. One other thing when you're eating there that they're known for is if you do eat at a restaurant, they do like to maximize their outdoor time, even though their weather usually isn't that warm. And so a lot of the restaurants will have the heaters above to keep you warm, but it's also a big thing where they have blankets for you. So I know I got told to ask for that. And when I was there in September in the two countries, and it probably wasn't that cold that I needed it at dinner, but it was more of the fun. Like I asked, it was like, because I was like, really? Places have blankets? I'd ask. It's like, sure enough, every single place I asked brought me a blanket. And so that's the thought, is like you can really maximize your time sitting outside. Dana, you had a question?
Well, I was just noting that couch surfing also has like social things. So
Yes.
in Portland, every week there's an event where people get together because people are coming from out of the country and go, I'm here in Portland, I don't know what's going on. And so there's a place for people to meet. And you can find that even if you don't stay at.
Yeah, and it's good to test it out. Yeah, test out couch surfing and meet some other people that are in it.
Even if you don't stay.
But if you have a spare room and you want to meet some really interesting foreigners, I definitely recommend opening it up to couch surfers.
Had amazing experience.
Just phenomenal. We had a Russian gal stay with us, and she taught us how to drink like a Russian, which is an amazing experience. We actually blogged about it, so you can read all about that on our
They do
site.
have a blog about that. So, yeah. Okay, so anyone else have a question about the countries?
So you were there in May and you said it was unseasonably hot.
Yes.
80 degrees. What were you expecting?
In May, we were expecting late spring, kind of the temperatures we have here, maybe mid 60s to low 70s is kind of what we were expecting during that time, especially because
So it wasn't huge.
Norway, especially in the areas where we were, is akin to Alaska, like Anchorage. So if you're thinking the same kind of temperatures in May in Anchorage, that's about what we were expecting, which is going to be kind of on the chillier side because of the northern latitude.
Was there rain?
I don't think so. It was dry when we were
We
there.
had really beautiful weather.
Yeah.
We can't complain about it at all.
I think usually around that time you can have some moisture, very much like we can. But no, it was dry, just absolutely beautiful. Kathy.
What kind of wildlife did you encounter?
Goats.
And only goats, that's it, goats there.
Were they wild or domesticated?
They were domesticated.
But you didn't see any like foxes or
No.
seals or?
Well, we weren't on the ocean itself all that much. We were on the fjords a lot, so we didn't see a lot of ocean life. However, at Kirping, one of the first that fancy posh campgrounds that we were at, I got attacked by a seagull. Like multiple times. Yeah, there were seagulls everywhere, and I was out again with my big lens, and I was taking pictures of them, and I noticed this seagull was like dive bombing me. He didn't like actually like make contact or anything. I'm like, I think he doesn't like me here, because he kept like and coming down and dive bombing
But
me. So.
no deer or
No, not really.
raccoons or?
No, we saw a lot of sheep and a lot of goats,
Yeah,
mostly.
Mostly because of our drive was taking us up into the tundra a lot of times, and there weren't a lot of animals up where we were.
So I'm gonna say one other thing. So Dan and I host a Facebook group. It's called Wild Spirit Travelers, and people can go on the Facebook group and post questions. And recently we had someone saying they were going to be in Copenhagen for 24 hours. It was a layover, and they wanted to know what to do in that. And a lot of people answered, and some of the things that came up were the Royal Library that's there, the Kunst Museum, the Christianberg Palace, and the King's Garden. They also, someone recommended there's a Copenhagen.com card that gets you passes into different places, and they said it's really good value, and it only is good for 24 hours, so it's good for a layover. If you go also in Denmark, one of the things I quite liked was Air House. I'm sure I just said that wrong. But it's an old town, and they have an open air museum. So basically it's a very old village that's set up, and all the houses are like, and people are dressed in costume, and you walk around and see what old Denmark is like. In Sweden itself, I've only been to Stockholm, so I'm not an expert, but if people have questions, they can come up and ask about at least Stockholm. I would say my number one thing there was the Vasa Museum, which, has anyone else been there? Come on. Oh, yeah, here we go, a couple of guesses. It's an old boat. It's a boat that was built in 1627, so an ancient boat, but like on its maiden journey, like sank. And then they so preserved it. Yeah, so they built it, preserved it, and then now it has it as a museum, and it's a fantastic thing to see. So, but these are great countries to travel in, and Aaron and Brianna give us some great money-saving ways to trim back on those costs there. So I think we'll wrap it up. They are not rushing off. They're going to stay up here to answer questions. We have all the bills that were just brought in. But yeah, they also, like I said, Brianna has some pictures up here as well, and a sign-up sheet for their blog because they're heading off soon. So let's thank them again.
And if you guys can't stick around and have any additional questions, please reach out to us on any of the social media channels. We would love to hear from you guys.